Vocable is an AI-powered content marketing platform that helps small businesses plan, create, and distribute content to attract, engage, and potentially convert their audience. Our target market doesn't really have the infrastructure to do content marketing right. So our approach to building the product is more focused on leveraging AI to streamline the content lifecycle steps and create a connective tissue between content strategy, content execution, and eventually content performance. The vision behind Vocable.ai is really to become the unified content operations platform, making this very overwhelming and fragmented content process a lot more simple, effective, and cost efficient for businesses who don't have the resources to execute on their content marketing. Content marketing involves planning, creating, and distributing content to attract, engage, and potentially convert any audience. And so the first data point to that vision obviously becoming reality, especially for me being in this domain and this industry for so long, is a product that potentially supports it, not just on the content creation side, but actually on making the entire process a lot more streamlined, automated, and efficient. So you're not easily overwhelmed with the fact that you have to churn out a lot of content to potentially kind of attract the right customer for you. We've actually, since we launched our beta, and even before launching our beta, we've carried out at this point thousands of user interviews. And obviously I'm so close to the industry as well. So I am my own target customer, if you will. I've been in this space for over a decade, and what we've seen is that SMBs, right, or specifically even small businesses, what they struggle with the most is rather streamlining and implementing repeatable processes that are actually optimized for efficiency and efficacy, right? So you're not just creating content for the sake of creating content, but rather creating content that is potentially going to drive traffic back to your website and convert your customers. And so that's still, I think, a big gap in the market for a high value niche. I actually believe that the emergence of all these task-specific AI tools that we see popping up left and right are making the workflows a lot more inefficient and fragmented. Even Forbes came out actually with a great study recently that says 7 out of 10 SMBs don't have a robust, effective content marketing program. And so that's really the target market we're going after, because they don't have the know-how, and they also don't have the right infrastructure in place, and they don't have the right budget or personnel and resources to really execute on content marketing in a way that, again, brings back revenue to the business. And so our approach to building the product is more focused on leveraging AI to streamline that content lifecycle and create that connective tissue between strategy, execution, and eventually down the road with our product is performance. So we really want to help small businesses have a well-oiled machine when it comes to content marketing.
Can you tell me a bit more about why SMBs should produce a lot more content?
Well, I think one, it's a very cost-effective way to really market your business, your product, your services. And also the biggest thing these days is that a lot of customers actually pick their service providers or buy products because they find a brand that resonates with them through content, or also provides them with content that brings a lot more value than just the salesy part of it, right? So you really want to also educate your audience. You want to educate your customer about why your product is not just the best, but also why you are an expert in your field. Most of the people that are looking for, let's say, a construction company in New York, or like a home design or interior design firm in Alabama, people look at, okay, how do I find, this is all through search engines. So the biggest way to really pop up where your customers are looking for you is by producing long-form content that can actually rank well on search engines that could potentially bring your customer back to you in a very organic way, but also provide a lot more resources and value to them through that content. So people want to buy or want to hire people that they trust, and content is a vehicle for that.
A lot of small and medium-sized businesses, they're overwhelmed with that idea. They don't even know where to start. If somebody wants to push out more content and make themselves more visible, how do they actually start?
Well, I think a good first place is to really just do an overall audit of your brand, right? Do you have the right messaging? Are you positioning yourself the right way? Do you know who your target audience is and what their pain points and needs are? And then are you actually positioning yourself in a way that responds to that pain point? One of the biggest places, like just doing a brand strategy, right? Understanding where you fall in the market and the landscape. And then based on that, then you can actually start creating and brainstorming a content plan or content strategy that fits those needs. And that's exactly kind of how we have positioned this new product. And I'll kind of walk you through this. So let's say you are a new business owner. You could be a startup that's just launching like us. You could be a small business that has been around for a while, but then hasn't really invested much into content marketing. You could be an online coach who just discovered their talent and their expertise, and they want to create kind of content and a brand around that. It's not very vertical specific, but it's just more like stage specific. So let's say for us, Vocable obviously was new early stage SaaS startup. You can input your website here. And so this is, again, our AI getting to know your brand a little bit. And I think a good way to start planning your content strategy and plan is really understanding, again, your business summary, what your core messaging is, really defining what your audience is, because a lot of the content you're going to create is going to be dependent on that brand identity of yours, and which includes the tone of voice, what industry you're in, the brand description. All of this, our AI basically pulls it from your website, so you don't have to input it manually into our software. But the idea is that AI will be able to really draw from this background and from this context to help you create a content plan that is tailored specifically for your needs. Again, value proposition, and then figuring out what are your keywords and themes across the board. It also comes up with content pillars or topics, if you will, that you really should start focusing on, whether it's because you already have those in bulk on your website or because, this is where we think you should be focusing on the most. And based on all of this information, then you can think, okay, I do publish content right now on LinkedIn and my blog, or maybe I want to create more Twitter posts or Medium articles. So depending on where you feel the most comfortable with and where your channels currently exist, you can pick the type of content that you want to focus on the most. So let's say LinkedIn post, YouTube script, blog post. You can pick a timeline as well. So if you are looking to just create content for the next month or so, you're able to really pick the time frame for it. And then now you have our software kind of just giving you that a stepping stone and that content plan being generated for you so that you at least have a place to get started. And this is typically when you are doing a lot of the content marketing. I think the biggest value, at least for me, especially for someone who has used multiple tools to be able to do and achieve a content plan, is there's also a lot of research, brainstorming, ideating that happens across different tools. And then you have to copy and paste that from like maybe a spreadsheet to an Airtable, or maybe from a ChatGPT now that you're using, right? So you're probably using ChatGPT to ideate different content pieces, but then you have to copy and paste that and add it into your spreadsheet so that you can plan ahead. There's a lot of grunt admin work, if you will, that happens in between every step of the content lifecycle. And my favorite thing about how we built Vocable is that part is already automated for you. So you don't have to actually copy and paste and then create every brief on a Google Doc and share it with people. It's just a very much scattered process. And then here you have that completely centralized. You can look at your plan and then you accept your plan. After your plan is created, you get dropped into your dashboard or your plan. So this is what your plan looks like. Let's say you've accepted it, you like what you saw and you were interested in moving forward. So this is the plan that was generated for you. Everything is kind of described. The direction is already in there for each piece of content, which again, I think is very important. Whether or not you're using AI these days, the best practice for content marketing is that every piece of content that you come up with as an idea should have a brief with it. And again, this is also very popular in the ad world, but it's also very popular and more of a best practice too in the content marketing world, because whether you're the one writing it or you're going to assign it to a writer or someone else in your team, when you come up with an idea for a content piece, you just want to really be very specific about the description for it, the content structure, the keywords that you need to be using for that piece of content, what's the word count, who's your target audience. So again, as much direction as possible so that if you assign it to someone, that they know what direction they're going with when it comes to this content piece. If you do use AI to create that content piece, then you also can use that brief as the actual prompt to generate the draft of the piece. And the more detailed your brief is, the better output is when it comes to AI, because again, you want more context and you want more direction, as opposed to writing a prompt around, okay, write me an article about AI and customer service enhancing the customer experience. That's very general. And I think most people prompt engineering skills are, surface level, right? So they don't go too deep into here's the actual direction that I want you, the AI, to follow when it comes to writing this content piece. And here's who the audience is, and here's what my brand is about, and etc. So this again kind of takes that all in consideration because it has already scanned your brand, it has scanned your website, and also every piece of content idea comes with a brief that has a lot more details to it. And it's all streamlined for you as the user. When you get dropped, again, this is your content plan. You can look at your brief, you can edit it, you can assign it if you want someone else on your team to kind of carry on the task. And then you can also open the draft directly. So every piece of content also comes with an AI generated draft that has already kind of transcribed the entire copy for you, whether it's script, whether it's a LinkedIn caption or article, blog post, or a guide that also comes with it. On top of that, there is a section around document health. A lot of people obviously want to edit their content a lot further. So I always advise people to not just copy and paste whatever AI came up with, of course, but rather be the human in the loop and fine tune and edit and review your content. We have a section called document health in our smart entry editor, which you're taking a look at right now. That's mostly really to help you with where you stand when it comes to vocabulary, grammar, readability, accessibility, etc. Then we also have an SEO tab. Again, I think the biggest kind of use of our product so far has been for small businesses who are looking to create SEO, optimized content to potentially rank on Google through their blogs. So that's very important for a lot of small businesses because that is one of the biggest way for customers to find them. So we do have a section around scanning your content and see if all of your keywords are included and how well optimized your copy is. And then we also have the AI detection that we are planning to add onto our document health. One of the biggest questions that I've gotten a lot throughout my trainings and talking about AI and content is how do I make my content not sound obviously robotic and obvious that it was AI generated. So it's easier for us to also include an AI detector within the content entry editor so that you're continuously editing and making sure that there is that human element incorporated into your final content before you deploy it. As you can see, our entry editor is very robust and comprehensive. This is kind of, I think before, my biggest pain point is that there was a lot of copy and pasting from one platform and one, entry editor to another. I would use Google Doc to collaborate and create the content, or I would copy it from ChatGPT into Google Doc, and then I would use Grammarly to go through all this editing and, suggestions. Then I would copy it into SEMrush, for example, to scan my content for SEO purposes. And then I would use an AI detector to make sure that I'm not sounding overly robotic and that this is not easily AI detectable. You could see how that gets very tedious and extremely overwhelming, especially for businesses who don't have those resources and also don't want to subscribe to so many different platforms and tools. With our comprehensive entry editor, you can do it all in one place. And that definitely saves you a lot of time, but also the content doesn't get lost in between different platforms. So everything's kind of compacted into one comprehensive entry editor. On top of that, the workflow continues, right? So let's say this article looks good to you, you're happy with where it's at. You also had shared it with your team. And if you have a contractor or a collaborator that you're working with on this, you can also share this with them and they can review it in real time. If all looks good, then you can proceed to, let's say you're publishing that article on your blog, right? So you can actually get all of your settings here directly from Vocable's dashboard or an entry editor. You can add your featured image, you can add your meta excerpt and any author, etc., and then get it all set up for your publishing and then kind of connect your channels, so whether it's your WordPress, Webflow, Wix, whatever you're publishing on directly from our dashboard or from your content entry editor. After that, you're able to also promote that article directly to your channels, your social channels, that is. So that, let's say a lot of people do create content that they publish on their blog, but they also want to amplify that content on their Facebook, on their LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it might be. So you're able to actually add those social channels directly from here, promote it, and you could also see what it looks like. You can create an AI written caption if you want to, and then schedule it directly from, again, your workflow on Vocable. So it's pretty streamlined. Again, the idea here is to close the loop on ideating and planning, to creating a brief, to then drafting the actual content, editing it and collaborating on it, and then setting it up for publishing and then amplifying it. So you can see how that's all kind of now completely streamlined streamlined using AI on this one platform. This is, as you could see, the dashboard. The dashboard gives you kind of a comprehensive look at what you're working on, from the current documents that you have been writing or editing on to the briefs that are due. And briefs, we think of briefs on our platform as tasks, right? So it's like, oh, this is the content piece that is due next week. And so here's what I need to write about, and here's the idea behind it. So it's almost like a task that translates into a piece of content. I know a lot of small businesses get confused with what briefs are, because again, I think our target customer doesn't necessarily have that know-how of the content marketing best practices. But just to explain it in layman's terms, what briefs are, it's just a task that gives you direction for your piece of content. And it's a great best practice to start incorporating into your operations and content processes, because it gives you a lot more strong foundation to create high quality content that can be revenue building, versus again, being very generic about it, or seeing like, oh, your competitor is doing this, or this happened today, and you're very like reactive when it comes to content creation. We also have here active campaigns. So obviously within a business, there's always things happening. For example, now we have a rebranding launch, right? We have a go-to-market announcement, or maybe we're going to do in a partnership with a different brand. So there's always different campaigns that are happening sporadically throughout the year and throughout the brand life cycle. And so you're able to also create campaigns based on those milestones. And that's usually very objective specific. So it's like, okay, maybe we need to create a campaign to generate more leads, or we need to create a campaign that is all about the sponsored partnership that potentially could convert into sales. Besides your content marketing that is evergreen, that is ongoing, right, that you can keep up with throughout the year and throughout the month, you need to also have to think about your once in a while campaign that are very objective specific. And so you're able to actually create content plans for that within this platform. And then you can go here onto campaigns, and it's somewhat of the same, again, process. You go in and you add your objectives. What are you creating content for? Which channels, again, you're using this campaign for? And then you are generated a plan based on those objectives and input. And then all of your plan lives under that campaign. Your content for that campaign lives again under this as well. And then you also are able to connect the right channels for it directly. This is a really good way to continue being organized and again, streamline that process without feeling like you're constantly overwhelmed with having to add more to-do lists under your content marketing. One of my favorite things that we've added recently for this product is the brand. I think every tool that caters to your content and your branding typically has a way to establish what your brand identity is, and then it applies that into any content you create and any brief you create, any campaign you create. So the way we have incorporated that into the new product is by, again, adding your URL. The way we added that component to the new product is that you're able to add your URL. Let's say you don't have a website yet, you can upload a file that has your business description, maybe your business summary, and any other kind of components that you have put together around planning for what your brand's going to be about. Or you can also just type it in directly into the product. So here you're able to add your website. It analyzes your site, detects your tone, understands how you write, also pulls all the right information about what your brand does and what your value proposition is, who your target audience is, and then you're kind of ending up with this comprehensive overview of what your brand is all about. And this is also important. I feel like a lot of companies and small businesses kind of easily skip this step before even launching sometimes, or before even putting up a content plan or strategy, because it just doesn't feel like a high ROI type of task. But this is really important in dictating how, again, you proceed with content and who you're speaking with and how tailored that content is to your audience and their pain points. So with AI too, it's even more important to have that context established early on, so that any content that you create is very customized to this specific brand that you are creating content for. Also, the way we built the product is that this portion of your workspace is basically very tailored and automated to your content plan and brand voice, right? So you have everything kind of mapped out at that point, everything's automated, and you're creating in bulk within a specific campaign or within just a specific content plan, right? You also have your brand, your integration. So this is your main workspace. But then I know how content world works, right? So you sometimes just need to ideate on demand. Sometimes you need to research and do keyword research last minute on certain topics that you're adding maybe onto your business or etc. So we are also incorporating a lot of other different on-demand toolkit that a lot of our users feel is actually beneficial for like their on-demand content creation when they're not just planning ahead, but rather planning on the go or on a whim, because I know that happens and that's okay. One of the tools is ideating. So you can ideate last minute briefs, and then that actually can be added directly to your content plan here. So they're going to be generated as briefs, and then you add them directly to your content plan. And then you can also research keywords, right? So if you want to research keywords around difficulty and any kind of information around related queries or what your audience is looking for when it comes to, let's say, social media or content marketing, what questions are being asked, that's a great tool to just kind of have access to on demand within our platform. We also have templates for different types of content pieces that you need to create on demand, whether it's ad copy, social media, email campaigns for different occasions. Eventually, we will be adding notes and insights to our platform. So notes is, I know the way I create content sometimes is I just take notes from what I'm reading, or maybe I'm listening to a podcast and I have notes about it, or my competitor just talks about XYZ topic and I feel like it's interesting. I can also contribute to it. So notes are very important also in incorporating it when it comes to creating content ideas. And then eventually, I think the last layer as we go into the end of the year with our product is insights and performance. So one of the biggest things that I feel like a lot of businesses struggle with, especially the small businesses, is figuring out what their metrics are, their content performance, and have that translated into a much more effective, iterated content strategy moving forward, right? What kind of topics did best with my audience, or maybe what channels are really killing it for me and how can I double down on it, and which topics should I publish more of? That part is actually a really beneficial one to add into, again, the loop and closing the loop on strategy, execution, and then performance, and being able to connect the dots between those three layers. While you're editing, you can also be able to edit a lot of your content here using AI. So you're not only collaborating with your teammates on our entry editor, but you're also collaborating with AI to continually improve on and add more content to your piece, which actually is the best way that I work when it comes to using AI to create content. I don't always go at it from like a comprehensive approach where I create the full piece of content. I do it paragraph by paragraph, and I just basically talk to AI directly on how I want the flow to be, and then how I want the rest of it to continue based on the previous paragraph. So being able to have that option here to just highlight a sentence or a paragraph or a section and be like, okay, let's rework this to improve it, or maybe let's rework this by adding this information here, is a great way to, again, not just leave it all to AI to sound super robotic, but like collaborate with AI to actually create the best content possible. The other interesting thing too is that I know a lot of people now toggle between you're able to also use different models within our entry editor to prompt AI. So let's say you like GPT-4o, or maybe you really want to see what Claude 3 Opus has to say as far as like, this prompt or whatnot. So you really can toggle between different AI models within one single entry editor. That again makes it a lot more easy to navigate and comprehensive, as opposed to, again, having different interfaces, different chatbots that you're logging into, different subscriptions and things like that. To me, this is a very helpful way to, again, consolidate a lot of that effort into one single entry editor. I know some people just want to use GPT the whole time, but I do think that giving the user the choice to, again, see, okay, maybe this prompt worked better using Gemini than Claude, or vice versa. It also gives them a lot more confidence to be able to play around with that in one platform versus, again, having to toggle between different interfaces and learn how to prompt different chatbots and different subscriptions. Again, here, this is all your library. So having all of your content living in one place is always helpful to see a list view. It's kind of having like your Google Docs and Google, folders all in one place where you create and edit and generate content plans. Your integrations, this is where you have all of your integrations. We're going to keep adding more and more integrations over time. The way we're getting started is mostly CMS, right? So I think the bulk of our users are actually creating content for long form blogs and SEO optimized blogs for their website. So we're really trying to maximize our integrations for those CMS first before we go into different types of integrations for other tools and softwares that you're using, like a Canva, for example, or social media as well. This is kind of a comprehensive approach to what I felt like needed to be centralized in one platform in order to really unify a very fragmented and overwhelming process, especially for businesses who don't have those resources, the know-how, and the infrastructure to execute effectively on content marketing programs. So I think that's a great start to at least help give that strong foundation before, again, we add more workflows that pertain to different other types of content. There's obviously email marketing, right? There's social media marketing. Now the content marketing we're really focused on is long form text-based content. And we really want to dominate in that space first before we offer different workflows for people to adapt to.
Which of these tools are you actually launching with? So you said that the plan feature will be available from the start. Is that true?
We're launching with the biggest workflow, which is also the onboarding. And that's typically to enter your URL, your website, and then based on that and the keywords that are extracted from that and the topics that we generate for you or you add to, we create the full content plan for you. And then you get dropped into your dashboard and then you start executing on the content plan, meaning you look at the briefs that were generated for you and you also kind of generate the content that comes with every brief and being able to, again, go through that workflow. So that's for sure happening. We also have campaigns for people to generate different campaigns. Let's say you don't, need a full content marketing plan. You already have that in place and you want to start looking into different campaigns. So you can create that. Our brand is also we're launching with brand as well. For the most part, I think we're going to be launching with most of what I showed, except for the entry editor part. In a couple of weeks after the first launch, then we're going to actually launch the document health that I showed you, which is the SEO detection, the grammar detection, and then the AI detection.